Hi, everybody. It's Joe Chaffee on this Wednesday. Guess who's here today? He actually came a little early with regards to the taping. He usually has been sleeping through it lately, the big boy, huh? Big boy. All right. Kovu's all excited, I guess. I'm not sure why. He just sees me nearby the computer and he thinks we're going on the air, so came to visit. All right, so let's go through what we have going on today. We actually had a pretty substantial rainfall last night across much of New Jersey, southeastern New York, and the Hudson Valley and Long Island on the order of 1 to 2 inches in some places. And it really came down for a couple of hours between 8 and 10 o'clock last night as this big area of heavy downpours just came in off the ocean. So some places got almost 2 inches of rain in about an hour's time. Anyhow, we've got severe weather issues today already, and you can see what's going on across much of the lower Mississippi Valley, where we have a moderate risk of severe weather in southern Arkansas and extreme northern Louisiana, and all encased in a large area of general risk for severe weather from northeast Texas and east Texas down through all of Louisiana except the extreme southeast, and then extending up into Mississippi and Alabama, going all the way back up through the western half of Indiana, the eastern half of Illinois, to about Chicago. So this is a pretty substantial severe weather outbreak today, and actually the radar echoes behind it. You can see there's already some severe storms, and we have also some looks like a tornado watch. Yes, tornado watch has been put up for this afternoon for this large area encased in red. So not a surprise really with all that's going on. And if you look at the satellite loop, the system in the east is continuing to rotate northeastward. The upper feature here has actually weakened quite a bit as it has moved on up the coast and continues to move to the northeast. And then we've got all this dry air that'll be coming in for the next day or two. This weather system here, here's the firing up of the severe weather today with this strong upper air disturbance that's swinging out of the Rockies and heading up into the western Great Lakes. Now, this system is going to weaken as it moves to the east coast. Much of this will never get here in terms of the showers. Maybe the clouds will, but the showers won't, because we're going to have this big ridge building up in the eastern part of the United States. And when we look at the radar to show you what's going on, here's the, let me just refresh this so we can get the latest radars. And, you know, we're still seeing some leftover precip here in the northeast. You can see this sort of patchy light to the occasional moderate shower that's embedded in it, rotating around the upper low. So as this pulls away, the last bands will be pulling out. In the meantime, here's the weather that's out in along the Mississippi Valley, and this line of heavy thunderstorms that's beginning in northwestern Arkansas and through southern Missouri. You can see this complex here going back up into northeastern Texas. So this is going to get pretty strong as we go through the day. I wouldn't be surprised to see some tornado warnings going up and severe thunderstorm warnings as well. So let's see what's happening in terms of the surface map. We're going to do the east, and then we're going to do the west. And we've got this low that disappears. We're going to warm up here. New storm comes down up into northeast Texas. And here's that front that is now affecting, that's bringing the severe weather today to the lower Mississippi Valley. It just weakens and dies out because of that big upper ridge in the east. So we're going to be mainly dry and warm and warming up. And certainly, I think Saturday, we have a fair shot of getting into the 80s in many locations. If we look at through Saturday afternoon, we have a cold front here that's to the north. And then we have a new storm that's developing back in southern Texas. And that's actually going to bring in some big snows to the Southern Rockies. I don't think they saw big snows all winter long in the Southern Rockies, and they're going to see it now on the backside of this particular system. There's some very cool air that's coming down out of Canada that's going to be building across the Great Lakes. Now, as we move east through the weekend, that front backdoors south. So Sunday is going to be cooler, and here's that system coming out of Texas and heading northeastward. This is going to have some pretty good punch to it as it moves to the Great Lakes. So on Monday, there'll be a strong weather front that'll approach the east coast with some showers and thunderstorms. So there could be some strong thunderstorms in the mix here running down the east coast, depending on how all the energy sets up. And then after that, we're just going to continue on with these weather systems coming out of the Rockies and heading for the Great Lakes with occasional cold fronts coming through every couple of days, and the potential for some showers and thunderstorms running around every 2 or 3 days. Now, let's look at the west. I'm going to go to the western regional view for the map. And then what we'll do is, first I want to go back and we'll go to the satellite loop of the west, if I can find it. Here we go. So here's our satellite loop. Let's refresh. Good. So this is through this morning, and you can see the moisture jet that, it's funny. We come to this western satellite loop every day, and it almost always looks the same to a large degree. You've got a big storm someplace. You've got this endless Pacific jet that keeps bringing in these waves of moisture. I mean, that doesn't change. And then it goes on up. Most of it has been going from Northern California northward. And this seems to be the case too, although there is some moisture spilling down into Central California with this, and into Nevada and Utah. One of these days, I'm going to go spend some time out in the West and experience the weather there, because I've never really, I was out there many, many years ago for a couple of weeks, but I've never really experienced the sort of the day-to-day meteorology and the local climatology, because it's a whole different world there than it is in the East. So it's kind of, and I've said this many times, it's kind of hard for me to grasp it all and to understand it, but I am trying, because I am definitely not against learning new things. I'm very much pro learning new things. Okay, so here we go for the West now, and here's our, so it looks like the Rockies are going to get some decent rains and snows on and off going through this week and into this weekend. And here's that setup for Saturday, and that low that's going to be coming out of southern Texas. Even some snows up in northern Texas and western Kansas, as well as southeastern Colorado and northeastern New Mexico. Another weakening system comes into the northwest over the weekend, followed by yet another. Again, these don't look all that impressive, and that translates its way pretty rapidly out across the northern Rockies and plains, and maybe some precip into northern Colorado before that pulls away. And then everything kind of relaxes a little bit as we move through the longer range until we get to till very late in the period, and then it starts to get stormy again. So let's finish off today with the upper air. I'm actually going to look at this with you for the first time. So I did notice yesterday that models were pinning on some blocking toward the end of the period, and it seems to be continuing along those lines. Let's start with today. So here's our system here in the east, weakening and moving northeastward. There's your trough in the west. So that ridge builds in the east for Friday and Saturday, then kind of gets flattened out a little bit as this upper trough swings through early next week with a cold front. Now notice this big upper high is building later next week. So you got this big upper blocking high over Greenland, and you've got a ridge up building in the west and a trough down in the middle. That's a pretty energetic look for the upper air for the early part of May, and that trough actually strengthens. The block holds. So this is very interesting on the GFS last night in terms of the upper air. That block holds, forcing action into the east. So I think the signature of what we're looking at in terms of the upper air pattern is that it looks like we're going to go into a cooler and wetter pattern for the beginning of May. Now, how it evolves and how that plays out day to day is a totally different question, obviously. When I say cooler, it doesn't mean every day is below normal. I mean, we're going to have odd days where temperatures are going to be average or even above average, or you get the odd day like we will on Saturday here, where temperatures will climb well above average and get up into the 80s. That's going to happen. But in terms of the overall flavor, I think it's going to be a cool and wet start in the east. And if that ridge builds out in the west, at least things could calm down for a little while, for at least 4 or 5 days. I mean, you still have systems trying to cut through that ridge into the northwest, but not nearly as dynamic as what it was. Although toward the end of the period, you can see there's troughing that comes back to the western part of the U.S., and you've got this trough in the east and this signature for some blocking. So going to be a pretty interesting pattern going forward as we go into the month of May. All right, everybody, I'm going to cut it short today. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. If you're drying out in the east, I hope you dry out well. from the general 1 to 2 inch rainfall. And in the southeast, it was a lot more. Don't forget to check all the website posts on meteorologistjoechaffee.com. And Angry Ben is doing New York City perspective on nycweathernow.com. And if you're here this long, subscribe to my YouTube channel, please, by hitting the little red subscribe button on the channel page. It's absolutely free, and you'll get notifications every time a new video comes up. So everybody have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.